Let's talk quickly to Emily in Idaho. Emily, what's on your mind tonight?
Hi. So I was wondering, what signs would you say would say that you're like you can like in like therapy? I know that you're a sex therapist, but I was just kind of wondering generally because my background is very conservative and is pretty negative towards that.
Sure. So I'm sorry. You're in therapy right now, and you're wondering like, am I ready to wrap it up? Am I ready to say goodbye and hop out of the nest? But you're looking to see like what some of the hallmarks are. Do I have your question right?
Yeah. I think that describes it.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what I tell all of my clients, which is that whenever you're ready to go and keep my number. There's not some big elaborate ritual where we have to say we're done or where we like walk away from each other and never see each other again. But it's also kind of a big decision, and I can appreciate that. I know for myself as a client, I have lingered and gotten like a very security blanket type experience from meeting with the same person week after week, even after I've maybe sort of sorted through the thing that I was there to work on. And so there's no right way or wrong way to do it. I would really tell you to just go and find what feels good. If it feels like you're ready, then you probably are ready because this is a world of working with feelings. If it makes you nervous to think about wrapping up, then, I can appreciate that and maybe challenge yourself to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, but don't feel like you need to rush it. There's not a good formula or a good system for knowing when it's time. And that's why, as a therapist, I really don't take it personally or get my feelings hurt when somebody I've been working with just sort of disappears or walks away. Ideally, if you've spent a hour each week with somebody for 6 months or a year or even longer talking about, your deep, dark emotional secrets, it's nice to have a appointment at the end of that process where you can kind of summarize your work and sort of go back over everything and maybe pat yourself on the back a little bit. But it's also not a requirement. And so I know a lot of people who, when they're done, just sort of disappear because goodbyes are too hard, and that's okay too. Really, Emily, I guess to boil it all down, I'll just say that you can have this conversation with your therapist, and there is no right answer ever. There are so many ways to do it wrong. There are so many ways to do it right, but we don't even need to worry about right and wrong. We just need to worry about what feels good for you. And having that conversation with your therapist is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, so I guess kind of following up on that is like I've only gone to therapy for like a year, and so because it's so late, I have all these other conditions, and then so I'm kind of figuring out my non-binary stuff,
Mhm.
and 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 so I so I was able to change my name on Facebook like a couple of weeks ago, but then I was kind of wondering about like if I'm okay socially transitioned, if that was a good indicator.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your goal and you have quote achieved your goal, then great. We're all done here. We can wrap it up. But the fact that you're asking the question, makes me wonder if there isn't a little bit of unfinished business or some strong emotions, and that's okay too. You know, uh, just to reemphasize, you might talk to your therapist about what if we only met every other week? What if we met once a month? What if we decided to quit? But like, I'm going to go ahead and schedule an appointment for 6 weeks from now, just in case my life starts to careen off of a cliff. I have that safety blanket of knowing that there's going to be somebody to check in on me and ask me about my feelings. There's a million different ways to do it. And each therapist is kind of going to have their own protocol to a certain extent. but you're driving this ship. The therapist is there to hold space. The therapist is there to help you do therapy, but you're the one doing therapy, right? Like we're all our own therapists more than anything else. The actual professional in the room is there to facilitate. So you get to call the shots here. You get to decide when enough is enough. And, if this is a relationship that you've invested in and that you have a lot of trust in, then you can trust the expert to have some good opinions or some good advice, but they can't know what it's like to be you. They can't know what it feels like to sit in your chair, and there's never going to be a shortage of things to work on. There's never going to be a shortage of things to be growing on. And so some people will spend their entire lives with a weekly therapy appointment, and that's valid. Other folks will get to a point where they have achieved what they wanted to achieve for that moment, and they're ready to sort of let the field lay fallow. And that's valid too. You're going to be the best person to know when it's time.
Okay. So I guess in summary, since I'm still I'm still asking that question, it's probably not, especially since I have to talk to my parents at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very challenging milestone. I'll say just very briefly that I probably have maybe a half dozen clients right now, this moment, who are explicitly and specifically working on how to come out to their family with some
Yeah.
sort of sexual or gender identity. That is a really, really challenging thing for a lot of people. And there's nothing inherently difficult about it, but we've built a culture where it is just one of the most universal problems that my clients are working through. So if it's something you feel that you want to tackle on your own, go and do that. If it's something you feel like you could use a little bit of support on, there's no shame in continuing therapy for a few more months, for a few more years, for a few more decades. There's no moment where you have to be done. It's just a cost benefit analysis of, is this emotional investment? Is this time investment? Is this financial investment? Not a small one. Is it giving me what I want right now? Am I getting a good return on that investment? And you're the only person who's ever going to know the answer to that question. And I would also encourage you not to stress the answer to that question. If there is some hypothetical platonic ideal of the exact moment where you, quote, should leave therapy, you're never going to know what that moment is. It's
Yeah.
totally arbitrary. You're just taking your best guess. And the good news is, if you guess wrong, you can always make a change.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so I hope that gives you some level of guideline, and we definitely wish you good luck as you sort through it.
All right, thanks.
You have a great night.